Welcome back to the Last Days Book Club, where today we start a new book entitled Set on Fire by Taurus Montgomery. The book is an inspiring and thrilling autobiography of the author and his journey as a young man finding his life's purpose in the midst of his pain. It is a story of devastation and destiny, lust and love, anger and forgiveness, hurt and humor, good versus evil, and choosing faith over fear. It is a story of how one decision can give you the life you have always wanted. This book is a powerful story of overcoming obstacles and finding your life's purpose. Taurus is familiar with the struggles and challenges of young people today. From age 12 to 19, he was trapped in a lifestyle of crime, fast money, and drug abuse. This led to bad decision-making, poor academic performance, and wasted athletic opportunities. His life took a turn when one night of devastation changed his destination. One former LA gang member, after reading the book, said, "It has been a long time since I've read a book that I simply couldn't put down. The stories are vivid and intriguing, but the single most fascinating part of this book is seeing it go from trial to triumph. This book is riveting, gripping, and captivating." One Seventh-day Adventist conference president said the book is an inspiring account of the power and grace of God and what He can and will do if we allow Him in our lives. Taurus Montgomery is now a successful SDA pastor with a powerful incentive and desire for ministering to the youth. This radio station applauds his commitment to and involvement with the youth of this generation. He has granted us permission to read this book, and you can order your copy by going to his website, taurusmontgomery.com. That is TAURUSMONTGOMERY, taurusmontgomery.com, and read along with us as we share this marvelous story. We begin with a foreword by the author's brother, Powell Montgomery. Never in a million years would I have thought a kid from Donald Street would become the greatest person I've ever known. As a secular man, he was my hero because of foolishness. As a godly man, he's my hero based on wisdom. My life with him has convinced me that my brother, for good or for evil, was always destined to be exceptional. We have shared the same clothes, the same tears, the same home, and the same pain. His is a story of not only tragedy and triumph, but of a slow and steady progression that is still ongoing. The journey is not finished, but to see who he has become up to this point is to know that God exists, and to know that no matter the circumstances, all good things are within one's reach. So why read this book? Because in a world filled with lies and deceit, here is your opportunity to read the inspiring story of a truly genuine and decent man. Read these chapters, because in them you will see the heart and mindset of a person totally given over to doing what is good. It will encourage you. It will inspire you to be the person you have always strived to be. Study these words, because they are living proof that there are African American men who are not concerned with pride, ego, or self-indulgence. Men whose life purpose is the service of mankind. Finally, you should read this story if you want to see an example of someone striving to be their greatest. Taurus models the essences of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And now, an introduction by the author. He was only 6 years old, but he seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation. "I have done something bad," he said. Those were the words of a young boy, 6 years old, who accidentally burned down his house. The good news is that he managed to get out of the house safely. However, there were others in the house: his brother, sister, and a friend. They were killed in the fire. After reading about this tragedy in the news, it took me back. When I was a kid, my house caught on fire. It was actually my fault. I went to the bathroom to wet a rag to wash my face. Since the rag did not get hot enough, I placed it on the gas heater so it would warm up. I just loved the feeling of a hot rag when I washed my face. I walked away for a few seconds and came back to find the rag had caught on fire. I panicked, and instead of calling for help, I flung the rag onto my bed. Problem solved. I went to watch cartoons. Meanwhile, my mother was in the living room on the couch sleeping, unaware of the looming danger. Within minutes, my room was on fire, and then the fire spread to other parts of the house. Luckily, my Uncle Wesley, who lived next door to us, came over when he saw the smoke. With the help of a cab driver who happened to be passing by, they ran inside and brought us out, holding my mother gently in his arms. She was pregnant with my brother Powell. Oddly, 14 years later, my life was spared from another house fire. This house fire was not the same as before. Indeed, it was dark. It was scary. It was fearful and life-threatening. But it was also a blessing in disguise. So much so that it changed the direction of my life. I was going in the wrong direction. I don't know which direction you are going. Whether you're going down the wrong path, the right path, or stuck at a fork in the road, I want you to refuse to allow the devastating things that have happened in your past to keep you from being where you want to be today. My purpose in writing this book is to share my story of how that terrifying night of devastation was the best thing that ever happened to me. It helped me to see a few things that I want you to see as you read this book. First, I want you to see that your devastation does not have to be your destination. even though negative things can and will happen in your life, something good, something great can come out of it. Secondly, I want you to see how God can actually use devastating experiences to lead you to your destiny, to help you discover your life's purpose. He can flip your pain and use it for a greater cause. Lastly, I want you to know that just as I have a story that I am telling, you also have a story to tell. The world needs to hear your story. As I share mine with you, think about your life and how you can apply some of the things you learn as you read. Note, there are a few instances where names and certain details have been changed to protect privacy. Part 1 of Set on Fire. Preparation. The action or process of making ready or being made ready for use. Chapter 1. Close calls. When you do stupid things, it can cost you your life. It was a hot summer night. I was riding in the back seat of a small 4-door green car. In my hand was a loaded .357 Magnum. The barrel of the gun was thick and long. The handle was dark brown with a strip of chrome. It was a heavy pistol, but the thoughts in my mind were heavier. I was 14 years old at the time, and so was DJ, my homeboy. He lived next door to me. DJ was new to the hood, so I befriended him. He was the quiet type, but he always found himself in trouble. And this night, he was in the car with me. In fact, he was the one who asked me to come ride along with him and Ray. Ray was an older man. He was tall, lanky, bald-headed, and had a twitching right eye. He was probably smoking crack cocaine a lot. He was not a stranger to me because he lived nearby in the neighborhood. We had many conversations before, although they were always short. Ray was driving the car, while DJ and I sat in the back seat. Ray was also the driving force behind what was about to go down. On that night, DJ and I had been lured by Ray to work for him. He promised us that big money was coming if we'd take care of some business for him. Being young and penniless, all I heard was big money. When DJ approached me, I was standing outside of my house dribbling my basketball. Big money had me thinking all kinds of thoughts. I sure could use some big money, especially with my house situation. I got in the car and we drove around for about 10 minutes before arriving at our destination. We pulled up to an apartment complex. Ray stopped the car. He put it in park and then pulled out that .357 Magnum. It was about as long as my arm. When I saw it, I knew I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He gave it to me. I held it firmly in my hand. It made me feel powerful for a moment. But then I got scared, real scared. Ray said He wanted DJ and me to go inside the apartment building to the second floor, knock on F24, and when his wife opened the door, blow her brains out. I almost peed in my pants when he said that. Before we got out of the car, I gave the gun to DJ. I remember thinking to myself, how in the world did I get myself into this? This ain't right, man. This ain't right. My heart was pounding. I was so scared. To make matters worse, I didn't even know his wife or what she looked like. Any woman could have answered the door. I kept these thoughts to myself because I didn't want Ray to think I was weak. Neither did I want DJ to feel like I was backing out on him. Ray parked his car across the street. He stayed inside the car while DJ and I got out. It was pitch black outside because some of the street lights were busted. When we got to the steps of the apartment complex, my heart went from racing to pounding. We tiptoed up the stairs to remain as quiet as possible. We scanned the doors until we located F24. DJ and I looked at each other. We did not say a word, but in his face I read, "Are you ready to do this?" I sure wasn't. I thought about jail. I thought about prison. I thought about my family. I thought about a lot of things regarding my life. But peer pressure is amazingly powerful, because the only thing I did not think about was to remove myself from that situation. The fact that he was holding a loaded .357 Magnum made it easy for me to stay, since I didn't want him to turn on me and shoot me. It was time to stop staring at door F24 and start knocking. I stepped forward. I knocked as softly as I could, hoping and praying that no one would come to the door. We waited for about 15 seconds. No reply. Then DJ knocked again, rapidly and hard. But this time, it was harder and rapid. Boom, 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 boom. We waited for about 15 seconds. No answer. And then there was the third knock. DJ knocked again with the same level of intensity. My fingers were crossed. My legs were crossed. Everything was crossed in hopes that no one would come to the door. And no one did. Apparently, she wasn't home. And boy, was I glad. That was the last time I ever hung out with DJ or saw Ray. I had zero intentions of ever seeing them again after that night. When I think about my experience that night, sometimes I get chills. I start imagining how different my life would have been if his wife had been home. What if she had opened the door? What if we had shot her like he told us to? What if we killed her? What if we got caught, which I'm sure we would have? What if I would have gone to prison for murder at the tender age of 14? What's so crazy is that I've had so many what ifs in my life. There were times when bad things should have happened, but they did not. Those are what I call close calls. Here's how the dictionary defines close calls: narrow escapes from danger or disasters or any unfortunate situation. You've probably had a few close calls in your life as well. Some people call it good luck when they escape one. What do you call it? I prefer to call it grace and mercy. I believe that every time something that should have went wrong but didn't was because mercy was keeping me from totally ruining my young life. Close calls taught me to value and appreciate life every day. Now, I live with an attitude of gratitude rather than taking life for granted. To this day, I don't know why Ray wanted to kill his wife. If I had to guess, based on some of the things he was saying about her, I believe in some way or another that she had hurt him. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, I will never know. But he got so angry, he wanted to take her life. Another thing that still blows my mind about my experience that night is that Ray never seemed like the type of guy who would want to hurt anyone, let alone attempt to arrange his wife's murder. He'd always been cool and in chill mode whenever I saw him. He never raised his voice. He had an appearance on the outside that didn't match what was inside. It has been said that you never really know people until you know them. That night, I found out who he really was. In some ways, he reminds me of the house I grew up in. It had the appearance of something cool on the outside, but inside was a different story. The end of chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Big House. Fancy cars and diamond rings, big mansions and bling bling. Always remember that things are not always what they seem. Anonymous. The first time I saw the show MTV Cribs, I was in awe. The show's purpose is to let you see how celebrities live. Mainly singers, rappers, actors, and professional athletes. Through the lens of the cameras, you can tour through million-dollar homes. You see the big screen TVs with enough surround sound for a concert. Some of the houses are decked with movie theaters, game rooms, jacuzzis, tennis courts, basketball courts, marbled floors and countertops. You name it. Celebrities give you a personal tour of their homes, pointing out their toys and bragging about how much they spent on them. One episode I saw featured rapper 50 Cent and his crib. The house was ridiculously huge. It boasted 18 bedrooms and 37 bathrooms, sitting on 17 acres of land. The landscaping looked like it just left the barbershop. It was well trimmed, crisp, and clean. There was an $80,000 chandelier hanging from the ceiling of one of the 6 kitchens in the house. Now, who in the world needs 6 kitchens? Can you say wow? Believe me when I say, the house was mind-blowing. But there is one thing that really caught my attention as I watched. I actually noticed one similarity, and only one, between 50's house and the house I grew up in. They were the biggest in the neighborhood. Now, our house was not worth $1 million, not even close. But compared to every other house in my neighborhood, it was gigantic. We moved into this house a year after I burned down the previous one with my washcloth. It literally became known as the big house. Maybe it was because of the size. It was 2 stories with 5 bedrooms, 2 baths, a living room, dining room, a den, and had a really big yard for a house in the hood. The gray brick on the outside was one of a kind. We had a balcony on the 2nd floor. Even the black burglar bars didn't steal an ounce of its beauty. It even had a legacy. It was the former home of Bessie C. Fonville. My elementary school, which was across the street, was named after her. Simply because of the way my house looked, it gave me clout amongst my peers. They looked up to me, respected me, and admired me for it. And when I told them we had an arcade-sized Pac-Man game in the house, the admiration went through the roof. What they didn't know is that my dad simply took the arcade game from his convenience store and brought it home. I relished every moment of it. My house's outward appearance led outsiders to believe we had it made. Thieves often tried to break in because of what they saw on the outside. They thought we were doing it big. But unlike 50 Cent, the inside of my house was a different story. Not one I'd let MTV tell with their cameras back then. Yet, it is a story that I'm glad to tell today. It's a story that started good, turned bad, and eventually got real ugly. This book is in your hands because I've reached the point in my life where I don't mind being transparent. So, the cameras are rolling. I'm about to open the door to let you into my crib to show you how I was living. Let's go. The end of chapter 2. Chapter 3. How I'm living. The most important things in life are not things. Anthony J. D'Angelo. As we enter the house for this tour, I want you to pay close attention. Step through the front door. Watch your head and look up. Do you see that water dripping from the ceiling? That's because the toilet upstairs never stops running. When it flushes, it leaks. Now look down. See that hole in the floor? That's because of the constant leaking water from the flushing toilet. The water rotted a hole in the wood. But it's all good though. Just watch your step. Let's keep moving. Follow me upstairs, and I want you to check out the room on your left. Immediately, you will notice that the $80,000 chandeliers are absent. But how about that brown ceiling fan with 3 years of dust on each wing and 2 light bulbs that need to be replaced? Curtains, you ask? What do you mean by where are the curtains? What do you think those bed sheets hanging over the windows are for? Those are the curtains. Okay, let's pause the tour. As much as I wanted people to believe we were doing it big, by now, I'm sure you can see we were not. So, I can't continue to walk you through my crib and show you fabulous and expensive things. But I can show you some fabulous people. I've come to learn that the most important things in life aren't things, but people. With that being said, on any given night, especially during the winter, you could walk into that bedroom behind you and hear many arguments. Man, my feet are cold. Stop snatching all the covers. Quit playing, man. You get on my nerves. Stop whining like a little baby. Shut up and go to sleep. That was the sound of my two younger brothers, Powell and Aaron, as they fought over the covers. This happens a lot when brothers who are sleeping in the same bed are trying to share the same covers in search of the same warmth. Aaron always managed to get his foot in Powell's face or on his head throughout the night, which didn't create the happiest of times either. Growing up with my brothers was a great experience. We were like three peas in a pod. I'm the oldest, Powell, and then Aaron. We always had a great relationship. We did almost everything together. We ate together, slept together, we laughed together. We even cried when the other got whippings, even if we were the snitch who told on the other. We wore each other's shoes, shared the same clothes, and yep, even underwear. The bonds we formed in our earlier years made it possible for us to endure the struggles that were to come. Now, let's go down the hall so I can show you the next bedroom. I like to call this one the inn. Everybody and their mama stayed in this room at some point or another, maybe even you. My dad opened the big house to any family member or friend who needed a place to stay. Uncles, aunts, first cousins through fifth cousins, drug addicts and alcoholics stayed with us at some point or another. Let's keep moving. Now, if you open that door, it will lead you into the next bedroom, which you might not want to look into. Let's just call it the junk room. When I turned 13, I cleaned it out and made it my own. We'll skip that one and go on to the next one. Norman Jr. slept in this room. He's my oldest brother from another mother. I first met him when he was 16 and I was 6. He came to the U.S. from Panama City, Panama. He didn't understand English, and we didn't know a thing in Spanish. I also have 2 other brothers, Gabe and Kelvin, and 3 sisters, Lisa, Norma, and Dutch. We all have different mothers, but the same father. Clearly, my papa was a rolling stone. Let's roll on into the highway. Turn left, take a few steps, and then going straight ahead. This bedroom belongs to my parents. I know you're not supposed to go into your parents' room, but this is my book, so I'm going in anyway. Follow me. That picture you see on the dresser is a photo of Charmaine, my mama. I'm blessed to have had such a wonderful woman to raise me. My mama has always been a caring and compassionate person. She spent her life doing what all mothers should do, taking care of her children the best she could. I don't think she did a good job, though. She did a great job. My mother made all kinds of sacrifices in order to supply for our needs and a lot of times for our wants. I loved it when she spent countless hours scratching my head with a comb, braiding my hair, and laughing at my jokes during stand-up home comedy nights. That's how we passed the time whenever our lights were cut off and we weren't ready to go to sleep. Because of her, Sunday mornings were often filled with the aromas and sights of bright yellow scrambled eggs, brown juicy pork sausages, yummy cheese grits, and homemade buttermilk biscuits lavished with thick brown syrup. Good. Mama was a pro in the kitchen. Strawberry shortcake was her signature, but her German chocolate cake was deliciously addicting. My father used to hide huge slices of cake in his drawers with his clothes in order to keep them to himself. How clever. Mama always bought us the best shoes and clothes. Hilfiger, Polo, and Jordans were the hottest things you could wear, and we had them. But expressions of a parent's love are not only in giving gifts, but also giving discipline when it's needed. As much as I hate to admit it, I needed almost all of the whippings I got. I recall one time when I was about 10, and she called me to come downstairs to help her clean up something. "Here I come," I responded, but for whatever reason I forgot, and too much time went by. The next thing I felt was a mighty rushing wind from the switch that was wrapping around my body in every which way you can imagine. The licks were followed by the most famous whipping phrase on the planet. "Boy, didn't I tell you?" I'm sure you've heard that one before. But regardless of how many whippings my mother gave me, I knew she loved me. Even when I disappointed her, I knew she still loved me. Even after getting suspended from school repeatedly, I knew she loved me. Even after getting arrested and sent to the juvenile detention center, I knew she still believed in me. In return, I loved her deeply. That is why it made me so angry when I saw what my father did to her. My father was a businessman. He owned several convenience stores throughout the city of Mobile. He followed in his father's footsteps. He was smart, outgoing, humorous, and a true disciplinarian. He instilled a fear within us that made it hard for me to have a meaningful father-son relationship with him. But the day I witnessed him do what he did, I couldn't have cared less about having a relationship with him, period. Powell and I were sitting in the back seat of his small red car. My mother was in the front passenger seat. The only thing I remember was his voice as he yelled and cursed at my mother at the top of his lungs. And then with his left hand on the steering wheel, he took his right hand and started punching her in the face and yanking her by the hair as we rode slowly down the street on that cloudy afternoon. I was shocked. Tears began to flow profusely, not just from my eyes, but my brother's eyes as well. Mama's persistent cry, "Stop! Norman, stop!" was to no avail. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was only 8 years old, but one thing I know is that I was angry. I was mad. I wish I could say this was the first and last time I saw him abuse her, but it wasn't. On another occasion, I listened from my room as the argument erupted into a hard fall and tumbling. I stepped out of my room and saw my dad kicking my mother down the stairs. He was calling her every name but her own. I stood and watched the woman I loved in a terrible and helpless position. His foot was on her throat as he shouted derogative curse words, degrading names, and demeaning insults at her. These incidents, and others like it, impacted my relationship with my dad as I was growing up. After watching what he did to my mama, I never trusted him or allowed myself to love him fully. My feelings of anger and annoyance increased. As I got older, things got worse. Ironically, It seemed that as the relationships in my home deteriorated, so did the house. There were roaches. Every time it rained, they came in for shelter. Roaches were there so often, I thought they paid rent. During the cold winters, big rats paid frequent visits. I remember turning on the kitchen lights in the middle of the night to grab a bite. Little mice and roaches would take flight, literally. You would think Disney was in the middle of making another animated movie. On top of that, the gas and heat was off more than they were on. The water was off every now and then too. We went to school without taking a bath on several occasions. Sometimes we had to go to different relatives' homes to take showers. I remember one year, we didn't have electricity for 8 months straight. Those were some rough times, and the environment where my crib was located did not make it any better, especially between my father and me. The end of chapter 3 of the book Set on Fire by Taurus, Montgomery.